All right, hi everyone. I'm excited to be here. I am Kate Freer, co-founder and CEO of Jointly, where we are building a learning platform for businesses to improve the soft skills of their employees and leaders. The problem our customers face is that many employees lack soft skills. Meet Andre and Dan, for example. Both of them are technically skilled managers that struggle to communicate with their teams. Andre's team is often confused because he fails to give them direct feedback. Dan's team, on the other hand, thinks he turns every conversation into a debate. The outcome is worker conflict, stress, and turnover that costs U.S. businesses an estimated $1 trillion each year. Now, what most people don't realize is that the root cause of this problem is habits. Now, what I mean by that is if we were to take Dan and put him through a training workshop or a class on a topic like active listening, he's unlikely to actually change because his combative communication style has turned into a habit. To change habitual behavior, a more targeted and intensive approach is needed. And that's what we're building with Jointly's learning platform. We are aiming to disrupt the $350 billion workplace learning and development industry. Soft skills training alone, the market is valued at $30 billion, and within the United States, which is where most of the market is $22 billion. Our target customer is US employers that have 500 or more employees, and also that have a human resources leader that's focused on employee learning. So thinking about the jobs to be done framework, our target is those HR leaders who their job is to coordinate learning and development. We have a variety of competitors in this market, as you can imagine. So some of them are training companies, e-learning providers, and leadership coaches, which all have their own limitations. Leadership coaches can provide a personalized experience, but coaching doesn't scale. Training companies and e-learning providers, they can scale, but they fail to address the needs of each individual learner. And the whole market fails to show evidence of business results. So our competitive advantage is that we can personalize the learning experience at scale, and our vision is to demonstrate the greatest positive impact on business results in the industry with our science-based digital solution. Now, how do we do this? We use a proprietary behavior optimization engine. The input to the engine is a learner assessment of 30 behaviors that are empirically linked to workplace effectiveness. From that assessment, our algorithms generate a personalized learning plan that is optimized to the specific needs of each learner. Now, to facilitate long-term behavior change, it's important to do repeated practice. And so the learning plan prompts our learners to practice targeted behaviors each week. And the result is long-term sustained behavior change, which existing solutions cannot achieve. So who's building this? I am a behavioral and organizational scientist. I have commercialization and product development experience from one of those training companies. I'm a senior certified HR professional from the Society for Human Resource Management. I'm also an angel investor and a previous professor of organizational behavior, most recently at Wake Forest School of Business. My co-founder and longtime colleague, Sam Postian Underdahl, she is a prolific award-winning scientist. She is a leader of organizational effectiveness, professor of management, instructor of executive education, and she's also a former intern of an HR tech startup that was acquired by Press Ganey. So in terms of milestones, we really started our intensive customer discovery in Q1 of last year. We've done more than 40 interviews to date. That customer discovery has helped us win the NC IDEA Micro Grant in Q2, which helped us build and launch our MVP in Q4. We acquired our first paid B2B pilot customer, and what we're working on right now is product iteration from what we've learned through that pilot. We're also assessing the patent landscape and pursuing a non-dilutive R&D raise. So with that in mind, our ask is a little different. We're pitching here. So because we're doing a non-dilutive raise, we are pursuing federal R&D funding from the National Science Foundation through their SBIR program. And part of what we need for that is letters of support. And so we are seeking letters of support from HR and business leaders expressing non-binding interest in a future paid subscription or an unpaid beta test that could be funded through those grant dollars. We're also seeking letters of support from investors expressing non-binding interest in potential future equity investment after we complete that non-dilutive raise. And those letters could even potentially be contingent upon milestones or information or work that comes out of that funding. All right, thank you so much. I look forward to hearing the comments and questions. And if you have questions that don't get covered today, please feel free to reach out to me directly at kate@jointly.com. Thank you.
Kate, or Dr. Kate, wonderful job. I thought that was a great presentation. I think this is interesting. You're talking to a whole bunch of B2B SaaS folks as well, so I think this is something where we've got a lot of direct experience. We'll talk about this. I think you did a great job. The problem you all are trying to solve is tough. It's really, really hard. I think all of us who've kind of operated in that space recognize how difficult it is to change the habits of people, especially managers, right, who think the world kind of revolves around them a lot of times. I felt like you kind of skipped the market a little bit too fast. I was ready for you to kind of continue the story about how you're going to kind of change those habits. You drew us all in with hey, the root problem here is habits. It kind of felt like we took a little bit of a break and then we got back into it later, which I thought was great. I ended up answering my question a little bit later, but to kind of keep the flow going, I was hoping to kind of continue that. To that point, I did feel like I was missing or would love to ask you further about how do you encourage people to do that weekly practice?
So part of it, because it's personalized, we actually have identified what their strengths and their growth opportunities are. And part of our algorithm iteration is optimizing to what they're intrinsically motivated to improve. So we actually give them feedback on their strengths and growth opportunities so that they see, oh, this is an area that I need improvement on. And then we make sure that what we are having them working on is something that both they feel they have the capability to improve, and it's something that they are motivated to do. So that being said, I'll also add that because our customer is the business and their employer, our account owners, right, they help a little bit. And so with our current pilot customer, they actually are doing weekly announcements with their employees and saying, hey, remember, do your jointly behavioral practices this week. And so they've actually been doing that every week and announcing that.
Gotcha. I'd love to, I think in the original pitch hear about that pilot, because that was one of my questions was, hey, how have you tested this so far? What's the feedback here so far, and what have you learned?
Yeah. Thank you.
That's good.
This is very close to like my area of interest, given the past company. We were working on measuring social emotional skills in K through 12 age students, so very familiar. I would dive into all the like reliability and validity questions, but let's not do that here.
We can. I can take it.
Oh, totally. I know you could. I don't know if the audience wants it. I'm curious. One of the things that worked really well for us was not we had a self-report, but we also had feedback from for the student, their teacher, and peers.
Yes.
Is that a part of what you guys are doing as well?
It is in the roadmap. So It is not something that we have in our MVP, but it is definitely in the roadmap to have peer, so from coworkers information and supervisor information and potentially customer information. For anyone who's familiar with 360 assessments for leadership development, we would kind of want to use that model, which could be funded through those R&D funds or other methods if needed.
I thought your team was awesome, and you did a great job talking to the background that you guys have and why you guys are the right fit. I also loved the ask to the audience. I thought that was a really good fit for today. I had one other thing I was going to share. Lost it. Go ahead. Pass it on. I'll come back.
So you're a pretty good communicator. I mean, obviously, you've been in front of groups a whole bunch, and like this. I mean, she's super credible, yeah? Like, this is really good. So that was great. There were a couple things I wanted to say to you. When you made your ask, it was basically, do you know somebody at a 500 plus employee organization that's an HR person that could help me, right? Some of you thought of someone, right? Okay? There was no way to act on that, right? 5 minutes before you stood up, she stood up and showed QR codes that took you right to a spot. I would encourage you, when you're in front of groups like this, make it super easy for the people who are seeing what you're doing to take action on what they're thinking about right now. Because you know and I know behaviorally, they won't. The minute they leave the room, they're gone forever. Don't you agree? Right? And so I think that I would encourage you to do that. And the second thing I would say to you is, I sort of would compare you a little bit to Julian in that prior to coming here today, I looked at y'all's website, okay? And like, it's not of the same quality as your presentation. And if you get, like, as people sort of get to know you, if I said to one of my buddies, you know, to someone who might be able to help you, like, look at this company jointly, they'd look at the website and they'd be like, yeah, right? I would work on that. Yeah?
I'm aware.
Yeah, okay. Usually in these things, some of the best questions come from the audience, right? So who's got something they'd like to say or a question they'd like to ask? Yeah, right there.
Are you looking at maybe using fitness trackers to record other things about people's heart rate or breathing that may make them more antagonistic? And in partnership with that, maybe looking at actually recording people's tone of voice when they're speaking. I mean, I think I get accused of my tone of voice being wrong, which, you know, people are dumb, so I don't know what they're talking about. But I think that would be helpful data that could really be like quantitative data.
Sure.
Helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great suggestions. Those are not things that we're working on at the moment and could be things that we add in the future. Thank you for that. Yes.
What are some of the recommendations that the, I guess, students, participants are asked to do?
So we have learners that are working on a variety of issues, from self-discipline to relationship management to even some of them are working on confidence, and so competence and confidence. And so we are giving them each week, we give them a set of behavioral exercises to choose from, and then they choose what works for them going on that week. So, for example, someone who is working on their relationship management, one of the options for them to work on is this week, have a conversation with one of your direct reports where you only ask open-ended questions and listen. So you don't actually provide any feedback, you just listen. Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity, you said that, and if I got this incorrect, I apologize, but you mentioned that right now to keep the people engaged, you have somebody on your team or somebody in the account that's reaching out to them and asking, hey, are you doing this yet? Did I hear that part correctly?
Oh, I was saying that our current pilot customer has done that voluntarily. So we did not ask them or tell them to do that. They're doing that voluntarily, I think, to get their investment out of it, and that helps. So it doesn't hurt, I'll say that.
No, I'm just curious because you mentioned like how your competitors, like those things are incapable of scaling. So if someone had to constantly keep reaching out to somebody, how are you looking at addressing that problem to scale that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we like we'll say this will help with engagement, but it's not something that we're building into our process.
Good. Kate, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you measure the progress, like to feedback? Is it just the feedback systems, or is it some scores that the scores? Or,
So moving forward, so what we do right now is we are tracking engagement, and moving forward, we will repeat the learner assessment, and so we will know if there's actually been change in those behaviors over time. Further, part of why we are pursuing the R&D funding is that we will connect both the engagement and the behavior change to business results. So the roadmap is to show how is this actually changing employee turnover, how are we improving ticket sales and customer service areas. So we are not there yet. That's part of what we're trying to do with our R&D.
How are you getting the input, the sort of the alpha input? Is it a questionnaire that they take, or?
At the moment, it's a questionnaire, yes. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think, like I'm observing, is people are super interested in this topic. Like this is like a ton of organic questions. Like people are really interested. There was one more question, then we'll wrap up. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of the companies I've worked at before, they invest millions of dollars into these behavior models at the beginning, these assessments, and and then there's no follow-up. So I think, you know, the model you guys are going after definitely makes sense. And if there's any ways to partner with those companies, because they've already acquired all these data to build into, you know, your future model. So predictive index is one, or social styles. So I'm sure they'd love to see this.
That's a great point. We had not yet thought about using existing data that our customers might have already. So that's a really good point. Thank you.
Way to go, Kate. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.